You and I have been waiting for this sequel for 14 years. Was it worth the wait? Three from Hell is a horror movie written and directed by Rob Zombie. It is a direct sequel to The Devil's Rejects, which I think is one of the best horror films ever made, period. Cinematography is by David Daniel, the guy behind 31, Teen Wolf, and Roswell, New Mexico. It was edited by Glenn Garland, the guy behind Preacher, 31, and The Quiet Ones. It stars Sherry Moon Zombie as Baby, Bill Moseley as Otis, and Sid Haig as Captain Spaulding. Joining the cast is Richard Brake as Foxy, Jeff Daniel Phillips as the Warden, and Dee Wallace as the prison guard. I wasn't sure how this was going to be because of the way that The Devil's Rejects ended. That was one of the best endings in cinema history and one of the best endings in horror. Rob Zombie has already proven that he can do big budget stuff, but he also has shown that he can do really good things with a small budget. Given the fact that it has a smaller budget and it takes place after The Devil's Rejects, I wasn't sure how this was going to be. So, was it a hot mess or was it pretty good? So the premise of the movie, it's really reaching, let's just be honest here. You know, in the end of The Devil's Rejects, spoilers, all three of the main actors, they were killed. They were shot to death. It was a super gangster way to go out, and having it accompanied by Freebird and the way that it was shot, it was just beautiful. And to be honest, they deserved it because they are horrible people. Well, it turns out that they actually survived that shootout. They made it out of there alive. It took a lot of rehab and everything, but they are up and walking around. But given the volatile and clever nature of these characters, are they going to be able to hold them behind bars until their sentence can be executed? What you really get here in this movie is 4 movies in one. The first part is a documentary. You get all of these newsreels, you get interviews, you get behind the scenes clips of what happened to the Rejects after the last movie. So it gets you caught up with where they've been and what's happening now, and it turns into a grindhouse or exploitation type movie that you would see in the 70s or early 80s. You get a slasher type film like something you'd see in I Spit on Your Grave or The Last House on the Left, and you also get a women in prison film. Then it turns into a road movie where you see where the characters are and where they're trying to get and the stuff that happens to them on the way. And then the movie ends on a pretty interesting genre twist. It's kind of a Western meets a revenge flick. When it comes to the execution of the story, the way it plays out, it just felt a little rushed to me at times. There were certain parts where they really should have done a little bit more with it or let it go a little further. Now there is a director's cut, which I haven't watched yet. I watched the theatrical cut. The director's cut adds another 20 minutes, so I'm pretty sure that's going to flush out all of these scenes that I felt like were a little bit rushed. I really love the look of the film. Now the first part tends to be a bit grainy. There's a lot of shaky cam. They do these really drastic punch-ins and there's a lot of things that are kind of distracting, but I think it's to give you this disoriented feel, and that kind of works. But honestly, as I was watching it, I couldn't wait for that part to be over with because I just hated the way that the camera was moving and how frantic it was. It was kind of off-putting. Now, once it moves from the documentary genre to the more like grindhouse exploitation stuff, the shots are still pretty stylish. The lighting definitely stands out. It looks very cool, but it's not distracting. After all, it is a genre picture. It is horror, so you want it to be kind of stylish. You want it to have its own identity. Despite a lot of that earlier distracting stuff, the editing is pretty solid. There's no really crazy rough cuts or stuff that's weird or sticks out. There is one scene where it's kind of like a party and they do a lot of like split screen and mirrors and things of that nature, but it works for that particular scene. There are a lot of beautiful shots in this film. You know, it's very, very nicely lit, especially, you know, the scenes in the town in Mexico. And I really enjoy the stuff when they're out on the open road or they're traveling, or even the night shots, you know, when they're staying at this hotel. There was a lot of love and care put into the cinematography of the movie, so it does look pretty cool. There's a lot of licensed music used in the movie, and it works really well with the scenes that they use it in. It always complements, and more often than not, it just adds a lot of style to those scenes. It just adds to the atmosphere. Sound effects and dialogue and everything is also solid. There's no rough spots. Everything sounds good. The musical score done by Zeus also works really well in the film. There are moments where it's supposed to feel really tense, and it does. There's moments where it's supposed to feel a little weird and quirky, and it does that too. There are a few points in the movie where there is licensed music or the musical score is going, but I would have liked to have seen that drop out so you hear like whatever's going on. Some of these scenes that happen in the movie are really rough, especially for like a normal casual viewer, and I think maybe they added the music or kept it going so that scenes wouldn't feel so hardcore and so realistic. So I guess it works in that way, but at the same time I would also like to see it be a bit more realistic and a little more hard-hitting. From the opening shot all the way to the end, this movie's just drenched in atmosphere and world building. There's tons of it and it works really well. Even the stuff in the prison and the Mexican town and the hotel, all these different scenes, you know, they really let you get settled in. They show you a lot of stuff with the characters. They really don't pull punches. You're sucked into this world and you're stuck there whether you like it or not. I watched this movie with two other guys, and there's this really rough scene during the movie that has a clown in it. It's pretty hardcore. It's not nearly as bad as The Devil's Rejects was. That movie, man, that's on a whole nother level as far as hardcore scenes. It's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but turned up to 11. This movie, it has some scenes that are like that, but not nearly as many. It's more laid back, it's more relaxed. At least for me and other fans that are used to like a more hardcore type of horror film. But one of the guys I was watching it with, you know, this scene's going on and he was getting so upset by it and he just wanted it to end to the point where he was talking out loud and he said yalla, which in Arabic means like hurry up, please, you know, let's get this over with, you know. So I asked him later why he said yalla and he was just like, I don't know, man, it was just so hard and, you know, it was oppressive and I just wanted that scene to end. And of course it does end, not on the note that he wanted it to end, but definitely on the note that I wanted it to end. This whole movie is just gangster, and if you don't like seeing bad guys as the heroes, you might not like the movie. Now, normally I do like to see good guys win and all that kind of stuff, but when it comes to Rob Zombie films like 31, Devil's Rejects, basically all of his movies, the good guys usually don't win, and a lot of times the good guys are actually the bad guys. So that's one of the unique things about this movie is it makes the heroes of the story these horrible, horrible people, but everyone around them is so much worse. These other people are so bad that you're actually rooting for these guys to make it out, to win, to survive, even though they've killed like hundreds of people. It reminded me of that scene in The Devil's Rejects where they get caught by the sheriff and he just does a bunch of stuff to them. So much so that, you know, you feel bad for them in that movie, which I didn't think was possible. But Rob Zombie is really good at tugging at your heartstrings and making you feel things that you shouldn't feel for the wrong people. There's a lot of little touches too that I like in the movie. You know, every time they show a television, there's always old school horror movies on there. And that makes sense because those are some of Rob Zombie's biggest influences. I think for the average viewer, the normies, the casual filmgoers, this movie would scare the crap out of you because you're going to see a realistic depiction of psychopaths and what they would do at any moment. It's really going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, kind of like the Joker did. But imagine if the Joker really went all out. But unlike the Joker, not everybody in this movie who dies or gets killed deserves it. Some of them, you know, you maybe would have wanted to see them survive, but given the nature of the people that they're dealing with, that's not going to happen. This movie is a very hard R, you know, when there is gore, it's pretty gory. When there's violence, it's very violent. It's not something that a normal viewer is going to want to sit through. Now, these guys that I watched the movie with had never seen The Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses or 31 or any of Rob Zombie's stuff. One of them thought it was amazing. The other one thought it was good, but he just didn't like it because he didn't like the characters. And that's understandable because if you haven't been with these characters since the beginning of the trilogy, you're probably going to get rubbed the wrong way by them. You're going to hope that they, you know, get killed or that they lose or whatever. I'm not going to say whether that happens or not, but I will say that the ending is really solid. It doesn't end on a weak note. So for normal viewers, this movie is scary. This is going to freak them out. It's a reminder that there are actual psychopaths in the world like this, and they would kill you just as soon as they'd look at you.
And now the moment we've all been waiting for is here.
We're out of time.
It's Judgment Day.
So overall, the film is pretty entertaining. You know, there is some overacting and some weird stuff that happens in the first two parts of the film, but when they kind of get out on the road and they're doing their thing and, you know, it has a chance to open up and breathe, it really starts to get a lot better. So it's really a mixed bag. And like I said, if you've been with these people since the beginning of the trilogy, you're really going to be into it. And if you like, pretty hardcore horror stuff or revenge things or exploitation films, again, you're probably going to be into this. But if you're like a normal viewer who was expecting something like some sort of like a PG-13 horror movie and, the good guy's winning or whatever, this ain't your movie. And honestly, that's a good thing. We need more hard R movies that aren't for everybody. They're for a certain type of viewer like myself and probably like a lot of you. It is a fun time. You're definitely going to enjoy it depending on what type of a person you are. If you're a sick, twisted bastard like I am, you're going to enjoy it. And that's why I'm giving 3 from Hell a 6 out of 10.